Hello there friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. One of the concerns that a lot of Star Wars fans have about the course of Star Wars recently is the portrayal of the Jedi Order as a less than perfect organization. The Jedi are supposed to be the good guys in the Star Wars story. I think if you've only watched the Star Wars movies, you can get the sense that the Jedi are these unequivocal good people. But the reality is, the Jedi were never designed to be a perfect organization. If anything, the creator of Star Wars, George Lucas, always had a stark warning against following any type of institution or organization blindly. I mean, think about it. Which organization in Star Wars escapes criticism? Almost none of them do. George Lucas's warnings about authoritarianism and militarism can clearly be seen in the failures of the Empire, but let's also not forget about his criticism against bureaucracy and the complacency that allowed the Galactic Republic to fall into disrepair. Even Disney, which further fleshed out the canonized version of the New Republic, made a super politically correct government that was extremely naive and weak. And it's not to say that we should just say screw all organizations, live off the grid and detach ourselves from the rest of civilization. If so, A New Hope would have ended with Luke taking over the family moisture farm and getting married with Cammy Lonzer and starting a family. Now, George Lucas fully intended his Star Wars to inspire people to get out of the house, get out of their comfort zone, and to care, to get involved with the world around them. Remember, Star Wars is about having hope and not being cynical. So if Star Wars throws critiques at every major organization and institution, if it criticizes the left, the right, up, down, inside out, if we're supposed to be wary of becoming cogs in the machine, then what are we supposed to believe in? What is Star Wars trying to tell us? Well, it's simple. We need to believe in individuals. We need to believe in each other. We need to believe that people are much greater and more interesting than the factions they were born into or they join. And so when I criticize the Jedi Order as an institution, I don't mean every Jedi is horrible. I mean, look at my channel banner. It's Obi-Wan Kenobi up there. He's one of my favorite Jedi in the Order, a man who clearly was a part of the problem and had many flaws. But as a man, as a human being, there are a lot of things I adore about him. Even though I believe he made a lot of wrong calls in his life, like not going with Satine, like not staying close to Anakin and embracing him more like a son, or at least a brother. But I still can't help but empathize for him. I can't help but feel sorrow for all he's lost, the sacrifices he must make as he's rotting away on that desert planet, the Tatooine. You know, there's so many Jedi in the Order. Individuals like Anakin Skywalker, like Barriss Offee, even Dooku, who I can find empathy for. Because like all of the rest of the Jedi Masters, Knights, and Padawan, these individuals fell victim to the horrible choices that the leaders of their institution made. You know, the Jedi Masters of the High Council, who hide in their lofty towers as they dictate. These people I look at a little bit closer. I still have empathy for many of them. I mean, Kenobi sat on the High Council, but as Aunt May once said, with great power comes great responsibility. The Jedi I want to focus on today specifically is Master Ki-adi-Mundi. For the longest time, most fans have only known him as the Potato Jedi, or at least that's what I call him. He only has a few lines in the entire prequel trilogy. And in hindsight, every one of those lines actually leads to devastating consequences, not only for the Jedi, but for the entire galaxy. I mean, never has a character as minor as he had such a profound effect on a franchise. Take a look at one of his most famous lines.
What about the droid attack on the Wookiees?
This just seems like some out-of-pocket random comment because it's oftentimes displayed as a meme on the internet, and so let's bring a little context to what this line actually means. At the time, Anakin had murdered Count Dooku, and General Grievous basically takes over as the de facto leader of the Confederacy of Independent Systems. The Jedi were basically hunting for General Grievous, and they wanted to, take care of business so that they could end this Clone Wars.
We have surveyed all systems in the Republic, but have found no sign of General Grievous.
Ki-adi-Mundi apparently was placed with looking for General Grievous using the Republic's vast intelligence resources, and he failed at this. And so a discussion is started in the High Council about where they should deploy their assets in order to meet General Grievous's next attack. And these assets are controlled by Grand Master Yoda. He is the highest ranking master and one of the most powerful Jedi in the Order, and also one of the most capable leaders. We have to remember, at the time, no one knew that Palpatine was Darth Sidious, so General Grievous was the biggest threat, and Yoda was supposed to face him. That was supposed to be the final fight.
Hiding in the Outer Rim, Grievous is. The outlying systems you must sweep.
We do not have many ships to spare.
What about the droid attack on the Wookiees?
Mundi's innocent suggestion is quickly seconded and then kicked into action.
It is critical we send an attack group there immediately.
He's right. It's a system we cannot afford to lose.
Go, I will. Good relations with the Wookiees I have.
It's settled then.
It's settled then. We're going to take our most powerful Jedi Master and we're going to send him away from Coruscant to a freaking jungle planet with a bunch of gigantic hairy apes. Sorry, Chewie, it's all just theater. I don't mean it. And so when Chancellor Palpatine reveals himself as the Sith Lord to Anakin Skywalker, who confronts him, well, it's not Mace Windu and Yoda, but Mace Windu and these three scrubs. Well, they're not scrubs, they're still Jedi Masters, and they're pretty decent in their own ways. But only Mace Windu and Yoda had a chance against Darth Sidious. And let's not forget, when they need to send a Jedi to Utapau, where General Grievous is potentially hiding, who does Ki-adi-Mundi suggest that they send?
I concur. Master Kenobi should go.
Yes, Master Kenobi should also venture to the Outer Rim, far away from Coruscant, and far away from his former apprentice and good friend Anakin. Right as Anakin, who's been groomed by Palpatine for years, is about to reach a critical point in his life where he needs the wisdom of his master the most. Unfortunately, Kenobi is off exploding General Grievous's heart with a blaster pistol, and so Anakin falls to the dark side. Yeah, so Potato Jedi here might have single-handedly created the perfect situation for Darth Sidious to take over the galaxy. Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, that's kind of unfair to Ki-adi-Mundi, but let's look at Exhibit B. This is a decade earlier, during the prequels. Qui-Gon Jinn had just survived his first encounter with the Sith assassin Darth Maul.
He was trained in the Jedi arts. My only conclusion can be that it was a Sith Lord.
Impossible. The Sith have been extinct for a millennium.
Once again, Ki-adi-Mundi speaks first and sets the tone.
I do not believe the Sith could have returned without us knowing.
Ah, hard to see the dark side is.
Now, Mace Windu promises Qui-Gon Jinn that he will get to the bottom of this whole fiasco.
We will use all our resources to unravel this mystery. We will discover the identity of your attacker. May the Force be with you.
But those are just empty words. Instead of assigning more Jedi bodyguards to Queen Amidala because the Sith assassin was clearly targeting her, the Jedi Order does nothing. They don't even send Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi any backup when they return to Naboo. And let me remind you, the Clone Wars had not started yet. There were plenty of Jedi not really doing important things, like talking to sentient plants. They could have sent more people. In the Acolyte during the High Republic era, they sent 8 Jedi to check on the Wookiee Jedi Kelnaka. And so as a result of Ki-adi-Mundi's words, when Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi face Maul, they face him alone. And as a result, Qui-Gon Jinn dies. And it's only because of his sheer willpower, and probably a little luck, he's able to become one with the Force. And he somehow manages miraculously to communicate with Yoda and eventually Kenobi from beyond the grave and pass on this knowledge. Otherwise, the Jedi would have been completely screwed. Now, up until the last episode of The Acolytes, we could have just written off Ki-adi-Mundi's remarks as just really bad luck and really bad timing. But something happened in episode 4 of The Acolytes, which gives us some more insight on Ki-adi-Mundi's insistence that the Sith have been extinct for 1,000 years. For those of you who haven't been watching The Acolytes, the entire story revolves around the murder of a group of Jedi who were stationed on the world of Brendok. A tragic fire many years earlier had taken the lives of a witch coven. Only one individual was supposed to have survived this, a girl named Osha. At first, Osha, a former Jedi, is the main suspect for these murders. The Jedi Order at the time is led by another Green Jedi, Vernestra Rwoh, or Green Diesel, as I like to call her because of her, steadfast focus on protecting her family, aka the Jedi Order. When word reaches her of this scandalous attack against the Jedi, she decides to do damage control immediately.
If it were to become public that a former Jedi killed one of our own,
our political enemies could use it against us.
Discretion is important. Our justice swift, an example made.
But it turns out Osha's twin, May, is not only alive, she is actually the one who is killing all the Jedi. And she seems to have some information about their potential wrongdoing, or at least role in said tragic fire. Once this is learned, Vernestra Rwoh scrambles to do more damage control and has a group of trusted lieutenants within the Jedi Order working with her to contain this problem. This is a super sketchy group of Jedi who have clearly gone rogue, just like the Jedi Covenant on the Terrace Tower in Legends. And among them is, lo and behold, Ki-adi-Mundi, who quickly offers his hot take about May, because he loves giving those hot takes, like a YouTuber.
This girl could become a major threat.
She's not disciplined.
Yet,
even though he's about 100 years younger here, which is honestly long past the life expectancy of a Syrian, at least in Legends. They'll probably have to change that in canon. Ki-adi-Mundi is still the same old Jedi, always quick to assess and quick to speak. But you know, sometimes having two brains doesn't make you twice as smart, it only makes you twice as arrogant. And when Master Soul gives his opinion about May, here's the Syrian's answer.
An apprentice who doesn't know their master. It's absurd.
Once again, Ki-adi-Mundi is unable to picture things that he hasn't seen, like all of those neglected children he reared in order to save his species.
We've been stuck here for more rotations than we can count. No one has come for us.
Okay, that might be slightly misleading here, but this brings up an interesting dilemma. Because May is clearly working for a master of some kind. A dark side master with a scary helmet and force abilities, plus that red lightsaber should scream Sith. But again, you know, I've hesitated to say that this guy's a Sith because we just don't know. I mean, this master could be many people. It could be Chimere hanging in the tree. It could be a slightly burnt Mother Coral, or maybe a fallen Jedi. The word Sith applies to a very particular type of Force user with a very particular agenda. Let's go back, well actually forward, to the prequel era. Why does Ki-adi-Mundi quickly interject that it's impossible for the Sith to return when Qui-Gon Jinn tells everyone about his encounter with Maul? I mean, if May and her master turns out to be regular dark side Force users, I think Ki-adi-Mundi would have probably brought that up, right? When Qui-Gon Jinn talks about a red lightsaber wielding individual trained in the Jedi arts, it's very similar in description to who May is, right?
she is fast, but weak. Her emotions guide her every choice in combat.
Yet there is skill there.
Or there's a darker twist here. You see, these Jedi in this room, they're all loyal to Vernestra Rwoh. What if they find out that that Dark Master behind May is a Sith? And instead of telling the wider galaxy, instead of telling the rest of the Jedi Order, they cover it up from everyone, including the Senate. I will give Ki-adi-Mundi some credit. When he begins to realize the scope of the challenge they face, he says the following.
We must alert the High Council.
The High Council would be obliged to inform the Senate. A scandal like this would inspire fear and mistrust. We should handle this ourselves.
Ki-adi-Mundi is correct, but, you know, Green Diesel is just, you know, too focused on protecting her family, protecting her legacy, protecting the Jedi Order. And, unfortunately, Ki-adi-Mundi does not push this point further. He kind of just shuts down, like a quiet lieutenant. I mean, every Jedi in the room should be worried that Rwoh is saying stuff like this. This is why they're all sketchy to me. The Jedi are supposed to be transparent. They're supposed to be beholden to the Senate, which probably funds a lot of their shenanigans. Everyone in this room, including Master Soul, unfortunately, is complicit if there is a cover-up. And so, if the Jedi are hiding this earlier encounter with the Sith, Ki-adi-Mundi plays a big role in covering this up. I mean, not even Yoda or Mace Windu know about this. Maybe this is why when Qui-Gon Jinn approaches the council and talks about his encounter with Darth Maul, Ki-adi-Mundi quickly cuts him off. I mean, look at this timing here.
My only conclusion can be that it was a Sith Lord.
Impossible. The Sith have been extinct for a millennium.
He almost has his answer prepared. I mean, you know, two brains makes him quicker. But I feel like something else might be happening here. I mean, think about the implications if this is true. Instead of training the Jedi Order to face this resurgent threat, what if Ki-adi-Mundi cared more about covering his own ass and covering Vernestra Rwoh's ass, about covering the Jedi Order from any kind of political scandal? If he's done this, then the Jedi are completely unprepared for the Clone Wars and Palpatine's hostile takeover because they have no idea the Sith are actually back. The sad truth is Ki-adi-Mundi, all of these Jedi in their room with Rwoh, they're extremists. And like most extremists, these individuals have been attracted to the certainty of this extreme ideology that Vernestra Rwoh is trying to push on them, that the Jedi Order should be protected at all costs, no matter what happens. This also allows these people to excuse themselves from being critical thinkers and actually thinking about their actions and how it could harm the Jedi. Now, people don't like to critically think. In a lot of ways, it's much easier to let someone else think for you. At least in the short run, it could be even beneficial. In the long run, I don't know. But yeah, it's nice to not have to think about the consequences of your every move and action. It frees you, in a way.
If you're not with me, then you're my enemy.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
You think I'm going to talk about Anakin being an extremist after that line, but no. It's actually Kenobi who's also being extreme, because the whole line, only Sith deal in absolutes, is an absolute in itself. It's an ironic line. You know, the prequels have some really bad dialogue, some really bad acting, you know, as does the Acolyte. They both have that same vibe as far as that goes. But this is one heck of a line. It's so beautiful and poetic, and it really does sum up the major problems of the Jedi Order in one neat sentence. Kenobi in his righteous fury is too blind to see this. Yes, he's right to confront Anakin, but he's wrong in how he does it. And I guess in his righteousness, in his arrogance, he makes a lot of mistakes. He creates Darth Vader in the cruelest way possible, using a technique long abandoned by most Jedi. He doesn't even have the common decency to shove that smoldering pile of flesh into the lava river to give him some peace. Instead, he just leaves him there to become entombed in a prison of not only plastoid and durasteel, but also of his own hatred and sorrow. It's really the worst outcome for Anakin. So anyway, back to Jedi Master Ki-Adi-Mundi. At best, he's a useful idiot, who arrogantly blurts out things without clearly thinking them through. And at worst, he's complicit in one of the most damaging cover-ups in Jedi history. Either way, every time Ki-Adi-Mundi speaks up at one of these Jedi Council meetings, it feels like thousands of people die. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification button down below so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. As usual, my name is Alan. My allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy. I'll see you next time.